Subject to real estate investing. Typically, I fund all of my deals using private money lenders, but in the current market where previous rates were maybe 2 or 3% and current rates are maybe 6 or 7 or 8%, this is a strategy that everybody that wants to invest into real estate needs to understand. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a deal that I just recently purchased using subject to, and I'm going to tell you how I found it, the numbers behind it, and the 2 different financing strategies that I put together to be able to make this deal happen. And if you stick to the end, I'm going to tell you the most important thing, the biggest thing that you have to understand, and the risk involved with subject to investing. But first things first, how did I come across this deal? It actually came from a wholesaler. A wholesaler was out marketing to sellers, and they got a seller that was interested in selling, that was actually a few months behind on their mortgage, and they realized that they still had a mortgage in place at 3.125%. Great interest rate, especially in today's, it's almost half of what current rates are. So they went on and they thought like, hey, this could be a good subject to deal. And one of the even more important things is that the seller was on their 17th year of a 30-year mortgage. And if you understand how amortization schedule works, when you have a 30-year mortgage, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, every year, the beginning year, you pay the most interest possible. It's way more interest than principal. And then every year, the interest and principal starts to go down and this goes up, right? And eventually, towards the end of the loan, you're paying down way more principal than you are interest. So now I'm on the 17th year of this mortgage, which means the majority of the mortgage payments that I'm going to be making goes directly to the principal, paying down the principal more, creating more equity for myself. So when this deal came around on social media, I was talking more about subject to deals and buying them. And then this wholesaler reached out to me and said, hey, I have this opportunity. The seller's down for a subject to. Do you want to hear more? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Talked with the seller, confirmed that they actually understood what a subject to deal is. Last thing you want to do is not be transparent with the seller on a subject to deal, because there's a lot of variables that come into play because the debt is still in the seller's name. They have to understand that. Otherwise, you're walking down a very slippery slope. So I confirmed that the seller understood what a subject to was. She did. So I was in for the deal. The one caveat is this seller wanted a year lease back in the property. So I'm going to break down the numbers for you and show you what that looks like, but that could have almost blown the deal. So they owed here's the numbers on the deal. They owed about $70,000 still on the mortgage. So it was $69,000 and some change. So 70 grand on the mortgage, and the entry fee was another $70,000. And it sounds like a lot of money, I understand. The wholesaler wanted a $20,000 assignment fee. The seller wanted to walk with $40,000 to $50,000. I had to make up past payments on the mortgage plus closing costs. So my entry fee on this property was about another $70,000, so 140 grand in total. So what did I do? That 70 grand isn't just money you just whip out of your pocket. So I went to a private money lender and raised that money at $70,000 on a 5-year term and put them in second position on the property. So the existing mortgage is in first, my lender's in second. I pay the existing mortgage their principal and interest payment, and I pay my private money lender an interest only payment for the next 5 years. So here's the specific numbers on the deal. My purchase price and entry fee plus closing costs was about $147,000. So I had 140 raised. So I actually had to come with the $7,000 of my money to the table, which I was okay with. Today, that property is worth over $200,000, 200 to 215 grand. So the day I bought it, I walked into about $50,000 of equity. That's another big reason why I did this deal, because the property was in immaculate condition and literally didn't require any work to the property at all. And I told you that part of this deal was renting the property back to the current owner, right? They didn't want to pay retail rent, so we agreed for them to pay $1,650 a month for the next year. My principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment is $802 a month. My monthly HOA payment is $173 a month. My interest to my private money lender is $400 a month, and my property management fee is $132 a month. So my total monthly expenses is about $1,500 to $1,550 a month, and my total monthly income is $1,650 a month. And listen, I know $100 a month in cash flow is not a good deal. I'm with you 100%. But what happens is after this year's over, the current market rent for that property is $2,100 a month. So I walked into $50,000 of equity, and then once this property is released at the what it should be, the actual market rent, it'll be over $600 a month in positive cash flow. And like I mentioned, it's on the 17th year, so the principal is getting paid down a lot faster. So remember, on this deal, I told you there's 2 different financing strategies that I used to finance this deal. And the first one, like I said, was the subject to. So I took their mortgage, I bought the property subject to their existing mortgage at 3.125% on the 17th year with an $802 per month mortgage payment. I didn't want to blow the interest rate because if I bought this with private money and then refied out of it, my interest rate's probably going to be in the mid sixes, maybe sevens versus a 3.125, and the amortization clock would start over versus being on the 17th year where I'm paying majority principal instead of interest. And then on top of that, I had to raise the additional $70,000. I didn't want to come out of pocket and spend $70,000. So I went to a private money lender, put them in second position on a 5-year note. So for the next 5 years, they have their money in this deal, and I just make monthly interest payments. So rent comes in, monthly interest payments go out. Everybody's happy, they make cash flow, they're earning a decent return. It's a win-win for all parties. And really the icing on the cake for this deal specifically is that the condition of the property. Literally, I walked into over $50,000 of equity and nothing needs done on this property. And what I said earlier on in this video, if you waited till the end, here's the most single important thing to understand when investing with subject to deals. There's something called a due on sale clause. So that means when a property changes title, so in this scenario, went from the seller's name to my LLC's name, the property changed title. The due on sale clause means anytime the title changes, the entire mortgage balance is due. So on this deal, technically that $70,000 mortgage payment is owed like now, right? But what happens is majority of the time banks don't even realize it. As long as they keep getting paid, that's really their concern, right? But you got to understand, it is a possibility that the bank could send a notice that says, hey, this mortgage is owed, due in full right now. So that puts two people in a pickle. It puts the seller in a pickle because they're still obligated to the debt for that $70,000. So they'll get a foreclosure. And then I own the property, so I'm going to get a foreclosure. Nobody wants to get foreclosed on in a situation like this. So when you're running these numbers and you're analyzing these types of deals, it's very important to understand that you have equity in the property. Like I told you, I have about $50,000 of equity in this deal. So let's say a due on sale clause did get called, right? I could either raise more private money and pay off the debt, the $70,000 mortgage, or I could go to a bank and refinance the property and pay off the $70,000 mortgage, or I could sell the property and pay off the $70,000 mortgage. Because I have equity in the deal, I have options to explore. If I bought this property and I was all in for 200 grand and it's worth 200 grand, guess what? You can't get out of that deal. Even though the cash flow is good, you're making $600 a month, there is no equity in the deal. So if the due on sale clause happened and you sold it, you would actually lose money because you'd have to pay closing costs. So you would actually walk away with less than 200 grand and you would lose money on the deal. So very, very important to understand the due on sale clause and to make sure that you have equity in these deals when you are buying these deals subject to existing mortgages. So if you want to learn more about the second strategy that I used, raising private money to fund deals, you can get 100% financing on all of your real estate deals if you understand and know how to raise private money. Watch this next video here.